It's Catfish on Ice, episode 248. We missed you, everybody. It's Chad Mitten with Max Greenberg. Long time coming. I know. It was like we're already 8 games into the season. We're just now getting you an episode since the preseason episode. But better late than never, right, Max?
Oh, absolutely. And, obviously there's been a lot of stuff going on. And, but you personally, you've been going through a lot of stuff. But, we're happy that you've made it back. And we're happy that you're here and able to do an episode with everything that's been going on in your area in Tampa Bay with all the hurricanes and everything like that.
Well, look, I'm very happy to be back. I'm happy to have you back. I'm happy to be doing this podcast. I'm happy to be talking about Nashville Predators hockey, even the ups and the downs that we're about to get into that's already happened in this season. But before we get into all that, yes, folks, I owe you guys an apology, even though it was out of my control. I always want to put out the best product I can give all of you. And, obviously I'm based down here in St. Petersburg, Tampa area. And so, of course, the Hurricanes put a damper on all that. And Category 5 Hurricane Milton was coming at me right when the season opener of Stars and Preds were coming up. And it was crazy. It was so surreal for me because, we knew this hurricane was coming at us like 5 or 6 days in advance. And me growing up in Tennessee, growing up in Nashville, I always had to grow up with tornadoes where it's like you get 10 minutes, 5 minutes maybe to prepare for a tornado being on your street. And you get that weather alert if you happen to be watching the TV because there's going to be severe weather. And that's a whole nother nightmare in itself. I'm not diminishing that, but this is my first hurricane experience being a Floridian. And let me tell you, it was scary. And I chose not to evacuate, one, because I have a very, very amazing company I work for that put me up in a hotel in the highest point of St. Pete, Pinellas County, the peninsula of the Tampa Bay area. But it was still really scary. But I remember just to tie this into the Predators, I remember thinking, okay, this thing is supposed to make landfall on Wednesday night. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's that the Predators are going to open their season. I'm going to make it to that. It sounds corny, but I was really thinking that. I was thinking, I'm going to be there. We're going to get through this nightmare that we're going through. And I'm going to watch the Nashville Predators open their season against the Dallas Stars this coming Thursday. And that did end up happening. It was in a hotel room on my laptop, but I was there. And so, I'm going to tell you right now, all glory to God that I'm here. And it's been rough. It's been a long rebuild in St. Pete, Tampa. Keep everybody down here in all of Florida in your prayers because a lot of rebuilding is still to come. But for me personally, very blessed. But the reason why the podcast was on hiatus for this past month was, for one, I didn't have internet. I didn't have power for over a week. And then just everything that's been going on, I really just could not focus on hockey-related podcast things. And I'm never one to just throw something together, a shoddy product or a 50% or even 90% episode to you guys. I always want to be able to give you my 100%, make sure I'm researched, make sure I'm all in on this podcast. And I wasn't there. I just wasn't. Even after I got my power back, I was thinking maybe go to a coffee shop, maybe find a place to just throw something together. But I just wasn't, my mind wasn't in it. And so I'm here now. I'm ready to do this. And I'm happy I'm so thankful for Max Greenberg, my co-host tonight. I'm so thankful for everyone who listens to this podcast to be here with us today. Whether you're watching live on YouTube right now or on Facebook, or whether you're going to be listening later on your podcast platforms, I'm so blessed to have you. Just listen to me and Max ramble and rant about hockey, but very happy to be back. And Max,
no, absolutely. And, with everything, obviously, like I said, everything's been on with you. It's hard to focus on hockey when you got things going on. I remember you and I were talking. You're like, I'm just hoping I have a place to go back to when everything happened, all the dust settles. And thankfully, you're able to go back to your place, you and your puppy are okay. That's the most important thing here. And hopefully everybody in the area is as good as they can be. But, obviously this kind of thing, we love our Preds. We love the podcast. We want to be out here to give these episodes to you, but,
give you the best episode we can give you, though. We don't want to ever half-ass things. And so we're here tonight. We're ready to give you 100%, maybe more than 100%, because let's switch it to hockey now. Let's get all that mushy stuff out of the way. But the Nashville Predators, Max, we got to get into a lot of stuff. I feel so far behind. I have so many things I want to talk about, and I don't know where to start. I'm sure you're the same way, Max. But the team's 3-5-0. They mixed in a 5-game losing streak to open the season with that 3-game winning streak they have going now. We're going to break down not every game in those 8 games, because we'll be here for 8 hours, and I'm sure you can't put up with us for that long. But we are going to, at the very least, really get into what's fueling the winning streak, but also we still got plenty of concerns out there as well. So we're going to basically look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, which I put out an article on Predlines, kind of breaking all that down, because there's a little bit of all that right now. Even when the Predators were 0-5-0, I said there's some good going on here. And now they've got 3 in a row, and there's still a lot of good going on, but there's still some bad going on. There's some ugly going on. So me and Max got to break that down. We got to talk about the rookie, Zachary Leroux. How about him, man?
Oh, yeah. No, and he got his first assist last night.
I love it. Love him. I never expected him to be thrown into it this early, but when you start 0-5-0, things happen. Things get jumbled around. Also, we got to do our battle for the Central Power Rankings, our first edition during the season. We did our preseason rankings, and as you can imagine, mine have changed a little bit, some drastic changes. One probably involving the team from Nashville, drastically overvalued them maybe a little bit, but we're going to pump the brakes and still see where I have them and where Max has the Nashville Predators in our Central Division Power Rankings. We're bringing back an old school segment that's been on the podcast since the early days. It's Clutch Performers of the Week. It's our 3 stars of the week, but we call it our Clutch Performers of the Week because we want to highlight the 3 Preds players that were the most clutch. They showed up in the clutch moments. Let's say hi to our buddy Redemption. Chad, my brother, happy to see your face. Glad to see you're safe and sound on the other side of Helene and Milton. Yes, thank you so much for saying that, Johnny. It's so good to see you. And as Redemption also says, hockey related, Zachary Leroux is going to stick around for a time for sure. Yeah, he's earned it. We're going to talk about it a little bit later. Also got to do the SMASHVILLE stat of the week. I got a good one for you, a little historical SMASHVILLE stat of the week. We're going to break down some good stuff there, so stay tuned for that. For all you history nerds that have been following the Predators for a long time, got a good SMASHVILLE stat of the week. And some stuff that I kind of tied, this particular stat can actually tie it to this current team, and it kind of gives me a little bit of optimism. So stay tuned for that. And then Max Greenberg is going to take the stage, center stage. Maybe it's not the center stage you want, Max, but Max is going to take center stage for Titans time and talk about that professional football team that plays next to the Cumberland River.
Let's just say, at least for the Preds, there's a glimmer of hope. There's not so much for the Titans.
You know what? So I didn't even plan for this. I got to actually search back. It was back when the Preds were still 0-5-0, I think. But I actually asked a poll question, which team is more of a – probably doesn't hold weight now because the Predators won 3 in a row. But I did ask a poll question to my Twitter followers, which team is a bigger disappointment right now? Because at the time when I asked that question, the Predators had 0 wins. Maybe they had 1. But the Titans had their 1 win. And I said, which team is – and I got a lot of mixed responses. Some people said, well, the Titans were already expected to be not that good. The Predators were. But then some people said, well, the Predators have all this time to reverse course and blah, blah. But, I mean, it was a good question at the time. But the Predators have won 3 in a row, so it has us feeling better. Real quick, before we really get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, I want to tell you we have a new sponsor on board, Game Time. I think you guys all know what Game Time is. Game Time is a ticket app. I've used Game Time plenty of times in the past, way before I ever even did this podcast. Game Time is a awesome app for when you're trying to get tickets, sports tickets on the secondary market. You need last minute tickets. You need deals. You need to swipe up tickets. Game Time. We're going to tell you more about our new sponsor, Game Time, with our promo code THPN later in the episode. And of course, our OG sponsor, DraftKings. We got a new promotion with them as well for this month with also promo code THPN. Hit us up on Spotify, all the major podcast platforms, and of course, subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. All right, Max, let's get into it with the opening face-off, and that is what is fueling the 3-game winning streak. I'm going to let you take it first, Mac. What is fueling it? Let's start with the positive.
I think I'm seeing, I would say 2 main things that are sticking out to me as far as this winning streak goes, and maybe I honestly might think of some more, but off the top of my head, these are 2 things I'd say are really feeling it. Number 1, the goaltending has been really good during the 3-game winning streak. UC Saros had the shutout at home on Tuesday night against the Boston Bruins. Really, really good performance, stopping some point-blank chances by the Boston Bruins. And they have some really good shooters, too. He had one really good save on a breakaway by David Pastrnak, and that was obviously key for them. On Friday night, again, UC Saros played a really good game as well. Blackhawks, in a game where the Preds really didn't play that well for a lot of the game, but he stood tall. Even Scott Wedgwood, on opening night of the year in the preseason, everyone was freaking out thinking, oh, well, UC Saros might play 70 games because of how bad Wedgwood was. But
I got something to say about that later in the SMASHVILLE stat of the week, so stay tuned for that.
But last night, though, Wedgwood was really, really good at home against the Columbus Blue Jackets. It had some good saves. Had a save in the end of the first period that was unbelievable. I don't remember who it was, but it was a 2-on-1 breakaway. Looked like a sure goal for Columbus, and Wedgwood came to the rescue, so credit to him. Also, I would say the other thing that's really important for this team right now is the resiliency factor. In the first few games of the year, this team couldn't hang on to momentum at all. One of the biggest things was after we would score a goal, we just cough it right back up. And that happened in a game against the Blue Jackets on the second goal last night. But overall, it's been much better. Obviously, against Boston, played a consistent game, won that one 4-0. Against Chicago, came back from 2-0 down. And even when it looked like we might lose momentum in the second period when we scored a goal, took 2 straight penalties, and Gus Nyquist scores a goal to tie it up. That was huge, but we needed that. And then last night, again, we were able to get back into a game after being down 2-0. And even after giving up momentum, crushing goal, Alexander Carrier right away ties it up right after that. And then Jonathan Marchessault wins it on an absolute
spin cycle
beauty of a goal. He literally put David Severson in a spin cycle.
So let's talk about this. There's a lot I want to unpack there. Good stuff there from Max. A lot of stuff I want to unpack there from what you said there, because obviously we have a lot of catching up to do here because this is our first episode since the season started. So bear with us, everybody, because we're going to be all over the place a little bit here. But we plan on getting on a more regular schedule now. But anyway, a lot of good stuff there. But let me first unpack the fact that the Predators have 2 goal of the year candidates right now. Early on.
Yes.
Let's talk about Philip Forsberg against Chicago.
Unbelievable. Just what a display of individual effort.
Splitting, and he does this all the time. I think sometimes, myself included, we get a little frustrated when Forsberg tries to do it all on his own. We see it happen a lot. He'll try to do those kind of things where he's like, I just got to do it on my own. And a lot of times it doesn't work out because it's really hard to do that in hockey, especially against NHL players. But Forsberg is a very unique talent, as we all know. And what he did against the Blackhawks to split 2 defenders like that, just will it. He was like, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
No one's going to stop me.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. And we're starting to learn it more and more now. But I think people outside of the Nashville spectrum maybe don't realize this. Forsberg is a big dude. He can play bully ball.
Yes.
For a lack of a better term. He can overpower you with his skating. It's not all speed. He is a powerful human being. Have you seen his hit numbers this year, Max?
I was about to mention, he had like 150 hits last year, right?
Yeah. I mean, this dude is turning into a physically gifted forward who can also do what he did in this sequence against the Blackhawks. Splits 2 defenders, and then his stick hand. Like most ordinary players who can even do that are already really gifted, who can split 2 defenders like that. But to finish it off with the stick handling he did to put the puck top shelf to beat the goaltender, Mrazek. I mean, come on.
The amount of talent it takes to do that is silly.
And then on the second half of that back-to-back, you get like, okay, all right, let's put this one next. Let's put them up head to head. Which one's the better goal? I'm going to ask you this, Max, but let me lay out the picture for everybody. Yep. Jonathan Marchessault. This is more of a one-on-one thing than Philip Forsberg, who took on multiple defenders, but still equally probably more clutch because of what part of the game it came in overtime. But the agility it takes, the skating ability it takes, the quickness, the speed, whatever you want to call it. I mean, and we see Preds do this a lot. They love to skate deep into the zone and then do that reverse and skate it back out, hit it back up to whoever the defender is at the point, whether it's Shen or Yossi or Shea, whoever it is up there. They love to do that. Evangelista does it a lot. They love to skate down quick and then reverse course and pass it back up to the point. But when you're in overtime, it's a way different ball game. And the way that he just faked out that Columbus Blue Jackets defender and then he finished. I mean, that's the thing. This team is still. I'm gonna share some graphics later from our friend Jay Fresh, who puts up some of the best analytics out there. A lot of interesting analytics he shared today regarding where the Predators sit in a lot of categories. And one of the categories they're still struggling in badly, and it really gives you a crystal clear image of why they're 3-5 and why they were 0-5, is they can't finish. How refreshing it is to see Jonathan Marchessault create that opportunity for himself. But guess what? He finished.
Yeah. No, it was a phenomenal play by him right there. I mean, and mind you, for a 33-year-old man to move that gracefully on the ice and literally, like we said, put Damon Severson in a spin cycle and stick handle with the toe drag in front of the net. I mean, that's everything you want to see right there. Just absolutely incredible.
And you saw the exhale from Marchessault, because more than any of the other newcomers, I'm not speaking ill of Stamkos or Shea in this regard. I know they're just as frustrated about the slow start as Marchessault is, but Marchessault is very animated. He lets all of his motions hang out there. And you saw throughout the first 5 games when this team was losing, how frustrated he was, how angry he was. And to see him exhale and score that goal last night and pump up the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was almost like a weight of the world off your shoulders. Like, we're still waiting for Stamkos to get that moment. He hasn't gotten there yet. Stamkos, he's having a hard time right now. I mean, his passing is off. His timing is off. I feel blasphemous even criticizing a future Hall of Famer. But he's having a rough go of it right now. Yes. I would assume that he would say the same thing if you asked him that right now.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't mean he's not going to figure it out. I think he is. But he's having a hard time right now. But to see Marchessault do what he did, to see Brady Shea get the game winner on the power play against the Blackhawks, it's really a game. It's really a story of 3 different games in all 3 of their wins. I mean, for me, out of all 3, the most consequential one is shutting out the Bruins, because you had to get off the schneid first. You know, it's like you have to walk before you can run type of thing. And this team was was literally beaten down to being like infants that can't walk the way they opened this season. And so you're going into a game against the Bruins who, yeah, they're kind of like mediocre to start this season. They're not as good as the people have come to know them to be. But that game was very uncertain. Don't let the final score fool you. Saros threw on the Superman cape, like I like to say, and played hero ball in that game. And as much, it drives me crazy sometimes. I'm going off a tangent because we've been off for a month. So I'm going to go on a lot of tangents tonight, people. I get so angry when everyone's so quick to throw out the pitchforks on UC Saros when he gives up goals. And a lot of times are his defense. I'm not saying he's perfect, but what I'm saying is, and his goals saved above expected through those 5 losses was terrible. His save percentage was god-awful. But you watch him do what he did against the Bruins to really keep that from being like an 0-6. And I know the Predators ended up scoring and they ended up making some things happen. They won 4-0. The offense finally found itself. But you want to talk about some clutch saves that Saros made on Pasternak in that game?
Yeah.
I mean, I always say your best penalty killer is your goalie, and the Preds penalty kill is looking elite right now.
Yes.
Let's throw some love to UC Saros when he's playing elite. Show that same energy is what I'm telling people. Show that same energy when he plays well and he plays elite. Show that same energy is the energy you show when he has an off game. Show that same energy, please.
Yeah. Absolutely. And another thing too is, UC Saros, this is not as great of a point, but he tends to struggle beginning of the year. And the fact that he's having 2 games now kind of shows, okay, he might, hopefully he's not letting that happen nearly to that same extent. But no, absolutely. He saw, again, really great performances 2 times this week by Saros. And also another point is too, as you mentioned, another point that I would say is fueling the streak, and I state the same as the rest of the year. The penalty kill too is continuing to be absolutely lights out for this team.
Oh, yeah. And it's not just Saros. Don't get me wrong on that one. It's not just Saros. The penalty kill is playing great. I mean, you look at your penalty killers, and, I mean, I don't want to skip over Cole Smith. I mean, that dude is just a bulldog. He's always pushing the puck carrier from getting out of the zone. I don't want to overlook Colton Sissons winning faceoffs. This team, I think the last time I checked, I didn't look at Sunday's games, but the last time I checked, the Preds are 2nd in the league right now in faceoff win percentage, only behind the Oilers. So that's a big deal. But it's all about winning faceoffs. It's all about blocking shots. Alexander Carrier is throwing his body out there and looking pretty good. I don't know if you'd agree with that. What have you seen out of Alexander Carrier?
Yeah, absolutely. I've liked what I've seen from Carrier. And also that, again, the Boston game, he had an absolutely sprawling diving play on defense to prevent.
That's the play I was thinking of.
Sure goal. Yeah, no, absolutely. Carrier, again, is one of those guys who he's just consistent. He gives you a little bit of everything here and there. And, he's a good defensive guy, but he also has a lot of offensive upside too. So, no, I like what I see from Carrier.
I think this might have been before the Blue Jackets win, but it was still like when the Predators were off to a start. And this is from Daily Faceoff. I came across this on Facebook. But they put out their pleasant surprises to start 2024-25. And they're picking up – but basically what they're doing here is they're picking a player from each team and who is a pleasant surprise. And for the Predators, they pick nobody.
Yeah.
So it gives me and Max an interesting question here. Let's pick our pleasant surprise for the Predators. You know what? I got to be honest, Max. When I started thinking about it, if you really think about the question honestly, who has been a pleasant surprise for this team? Like a player on this team where you're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. It's kind of hard to think about a player.
I don't think I have one.
So I think Daily Faceoff is they're kind of being fair.
No, I
mean, you can say Zachary Leroux because no one expected him.
Enough.
Huh?
Yeah, he hasn't done enough yet. I mean,
yeah,
I'm with you 100%. I don't think there is not one that jump. I mean, no, I can't.
It's hard.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
It's tough. So when I first looked at it, I was like, what? I was like, you're going to give us a nobody. But then I think about it more and more. I'm like, they're kind of being fair here.
No, I think they're absolutely right.
I mean, there's only a few other. I mean, the Oilers get the same treatment. They say nobody's a surprise on their team either.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's kind of a fair assessment, I suppose.
Unfortunately,
I mean, no one is really sticking out right now where we're like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
Mm-mm. Yeah, no, you're right. It is totally fair.
All right. So, but like I was saying, this 3-game winning streak, I think what's really fueling it is just you're building chemistry, and it's things we talked about here. I've already been on record to say I'm very critical about Brunette just constantly changing these lines because I feel like that just hamstrings the team from building chemistry even more. But like, what have you thought about Andrew Brunette and how he has been managing this?
Yeah, I'm not totally surprised. And I certainly think he shouldn't do it every single game. I think he's trying to be a little more consistent with the lines, I think. Although I will say last night, I do like that they gave Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Marchessault a chance. We've been talking about that one. They did it last night. We still don't know what the second line center situation is going to look like. That's in flux, and we kind of figured that would be. So it's not totally Brunette's fault. I mean, there's definitely a weakness there. Defensively, it stayed pretty much the same, but I think they're definitely still in kind of trial and error with that. And I do think Bruno could be a little more consistent, but there's also definitely a lot of things to figure out. So it's not totally surprising.
Yeah, I get that. I love that he gave Zachary Leroux a chance this early in the season. I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. I mean, we talked about this throughout the offseason. We said that Leroux is the next man up when things go awry. And I even said, like, it's a matter of when, not if, Zachary Leroux makes his season debut in the upcoming season. I never thought it was going to be this early in the season, mind you. But I like that he sent a message. Now that's to the detriment of Philip Tomasino and Juuso Parssinen. And, I know that there's a strong segment of this fan base that loves both of those players, but we have to call it like we see it.
Yeah.
And those guys just weren't making enough happen. And Zachary Leroux, he is popping off my television screen when I'm watching him. He's got that factor to him. I mean, he gets his first NHL point on this primary assist to Carrier, but we need to realize Leroux's not out there to pile up the points. This dude's out there to hit people. He's out there to make things happen. He's out there to win puck battles, to win possession, hockey is a battle of attrition. It's literally winning inches of ice the best you can. That's what Zachary Leroux does for you. I love him on the fourth line because he doesn't have a ton of pressure on him in that role. He can do what he does and thrive in it. And just as our friend Johnny commented earlier in this episode, I don't see any reason why you pull him out right now because he's not an offensive specialist where he's just going to get buried on the fourth line and be so inconsequential that you're just wasting. Like, you give this guy 12, 13 minutes, whatever it is, of ice time per night and let him do what he does like a bull in a china shop, he's going to make it happen. And then if he can work his way up the lineup, that's great too. But Bruno, A+ for me on putting Zachary Leroux in after the 0-5 start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think, just theoretically, I think he is a better fit on that fourth line identity line than, Tomasino for sure. And even I'd say Parssinen, because I think I could be wrong, but I very much think that this coaching staff and team very much sees Parssinen best as a center, and it's kind of hard for him to carve out a center spot on this lineup right now. So Like you say, I like everything that Zachary Leroux's doing. I don't think there's any reason to keep him out. I think he's just such a good fit down there.
For sure. And then going to the Chicago game, Chicago goes up 2-0. That game had me seriously worried more than the Columbus game because let me first say this, and I talk so much crap about the Blackhawks all the time, and I'm never going to stop doing that. But I'm also always going to be fair when I can be fair. Chicago is making progress.
They are.
They looked really good. Now, the Predators took it to them, and their talent level overtook the Blackhawks, which is what should happen. And it took a little bit longer than we would have liked. But that first period, I was watching the Blackhawks, and I'm like, am I watching the right team? Are the Predators really playing the Blackhawks right now? Because that team looked crisp. They looked fast. They were popping passes through the zone, and the Predators were just chasing the puck like nonstop. And I'm thinking, this is going to be a really long night for the Predators.
I even thought a lot of that during the second period, too, for some.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Blackhawks, they were buzzing, man. They looked good. They looked like a team that I didn't recognize from the previous years of the Blackhawks. They're making progress. And we even said in our preseason Central Division power rankings that the Blackhawks are going to be much better this year. They're not going to be as bad, historically bad as last year.
Right.
I think the Predators definitely didn't play well to open that game, but I give a lot of credit to the Blackhawks on how they opened that game. But it's a 60-minute game. Sometimes it's a 60-plus minute game. And the Predators finally found their groove, and they took care of business. Forsberg got it going with the aforementioned highlight reel goal, but they just stuck to it. Gus Nyquist, as you mentioned earlier, Max, I think we got to give some love to him. We were all wondering, is he going to take that big step back after magically setting a career high in points at his age? First year, we all thought he was going to take a step back.
He still might.
He still might. It's very early in the season, but when that guy gets loose and when he gets open, he's got a great wrister, man.
Yeah.
He's nifty.
And he did it twice. And he made a big play in the Chicago game on shorthanded that tied the game. And that was the play that going to the second intermission, we're like, okay, we actually have momentum now.
Let's say hi to our friend Joel on Facebook. He says, how long do they stick with Stamkos on that line? Don't they have to try to shake him a little and get him with the top line? Need to get him going. I mean, look, this is the conundrum that the Predators are facing right now is how do we get Stamkos going? You know, one thing I'll say, Joel, is, you know, Stamkos has hit some post. Here's really the problem I see going on. And Max, I'll get your thoughts on it. Maybe you agree. The Predators are trying to force feed Stamkos right now. Think about it from a basketball term or a football term. Let's say football. You got a star receiver you just signed, and you're forcing the ball to him when he's double covered. Or think about a basketball team where you got 5 guys on the court, and you get a star player, and you're forcing the ball, and the guy's getting double teamed, and the guy can't get a shot off. The Predators are going to have to figure out ways, especially on the power play, to make teams fear them and take the pressure off Stamkos. They're going to have to figure that out first. I mean, look, we realize that going into this season that Stamkos does the majority of his damage at this point in his career on the power play, and he hasn't been able to connect there. I think it's only a matter of time before the averages even back out and Stamkos starts getting some power play goals. But it's definitely a major concern that he is not fitting in, dare I say, when it's 5-on-5.
Yeah, they clearly haven't figured it out with him. It's one of those things where it was kind of expected to some extent because at even strength, you know, his play definitely regressed, and obviously we knew he was best at the power play. And I just think it's one of those areas where you're going to have to just I always hate to kind of put it this way, but just hope that, not even really hope, but like just find a way for it to get better. You know, I think as far as going on the first line, it's tough because I think he's by far a fit at left wing or center. You can't really take Forsberg's spot at left wing on the top line, and he plays a lot with O'Reilly, so that's tough. I mean, again, I just think I think it's about finding a way to make it work with what you have. I don't really have the clear answer to that, but
I don't think any of us do. He's going to have to work his way through it. I mean, he's going to have to work. There is no magical solution to this. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's going to have to work his way through it. I mean, he is definitely in one of the slowest starts of his NHL career in terms of points and goals. But, he's joining a whole new team, a whole new system. So it shouldn't be entirely shocking. Right. But we're now 8 games in. So now is kind of the time where he needs to shake out of it a little bit. But I just want to remind everybody that the opposite happened when Matt Duchene joined this team. He shot off like a rocket when he first joined the Predators, if everybody realizes. I mean, this dude,
like a month, yes, and then after that.
So let's just keep it all in perspective here. And I have full faith in Stamkos. I think he's going to continue to do the right things, even if he's not putting up points and even if he's not scoring goals, which is definitely what you signed him for. So we need him to start doing those things, obviously. But I think they're trying to force feed him too much on the power play. They're trying to be like, I have seen too many cross ice passes or they're trying to split this penalty kill. They're trying to feed it to him and it gets knocked out and it gets intercepted. It gets thrown out of the zone. Like, they want to get it to Stamkos so bad. They really do. But they're going to have to let it come naturally a little bit. And let's just hope that it's only been 8 games and it's going to take some time. And it comes sooner rather than later. But, we're in this for the long haul. Stamkos ain't going anywhere. So a lot of hockey left this season. So it's definitely concerning, but let's just let's pump the brakes a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. We're going to move on here in episode 248 of Catfish and Ice. Good stuff talking about the Preds winning streak, what's fueling it. We're going to get into some concerns that the team still has even after the 3-game winning streak. They're still 3-5-0, so they're still they've fallen behind in the Central Division standings. We got this team that's 8-0-0. If you haven't seen them yet, they're called the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, that's pretty impressive. But before we get into that, let's talk about our new sponsor. That is Game Time. Game Time is one of the best ticket apps out there. They are the best. And there's nothing better than going to a live hockey event. That's why me and Max are doing a hockey podcast. I remember the first time I ever went to a hockey game. I wasn't even a hockey fan. And I went to a live hockey game. And I was like, wow, whoa. This sport, what is the deal with this sport? Like, live hockey, you can't touch it. And with Game Time, you get live hockey tickets, but not just live sporting events. You get live concerts, you get live shows, you get all different types of amazing live events with Game Time. And Game Time picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Yeah, I mean, like, let's dump the other ticket places where you can't even find tickets. This one, it filters it out. So for me, I'm actually getting ready to go to the Preds and Lightning down here in Tampa on Monday. I'm kind of like excited and nervous at the same time, Max.
No, I bet I know. I bet you are.
I was really dreading it when they were 0-5. I'm not going to lie. But now they've won 3 in a row. So now I'm like, okay, maybe they'll be okay. I don't know. I mean, the Lightning, they're kind of like hanging around there in the middle as well.
Like the Bruins, honestly. We played good against the Bruins, so.
Exactly. So pumped about that. But you know what? There's super deals and out there with your Game Time picks and it's just like, I mean, amazing thing. Just whether you're getting concert tickets, live shows, whatever it is, Game Time is there for you. And with the app, Game Time has an amazing user-friendly app. Use the app features Customize your spot and the supplemental as inspiration. There's so many good things that you can do with the Game Time app that's user friendly to find. Curated deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats. The super deals, seat views before you buy. You can see where you're sitting. That is my favorite feature out there. Is when you can figure out when you're thinking about buying tickets, you can check out, okay, where are my seats actually going to look like? Is like a big jumbotron going to be blocking my view? Game Time has you covered there. Lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. All that stuff is out there to take care of you. So with that, it makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and extra with your Game Time picks. All-in pricing with your toggling feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. No surprise fees. Lowest price guarantee. And, of course, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right. So, Max, let's get into what is still our biggest concerns regarding the Predators. And for me, it is the odd man rushes that this defense is giving up. I think you were thinking the same thing. I could already see you nodding your head.
That or the power play.
I mean, the power play, I think it's going to work itself out
Probably.
eventually. But, I mean, it might be a speed thing. I don't know if this team's as fast as we expected it to be. I don't know. But they are getting burned for these odd man rushes against every game we've watched. And it's a main source for the goaltending. The goaltending problems that we're seeing, not to give the goaltenders a free pass, but a lot of the ways they're getting beat is the source of the defense getting carved up for these odd man rushes.
And I still have some hope that it can get better, especially because I know that a lot of, Andrew Brunette's system, a lot of what's hard on it is for the defensemen, especially since they're always joining the rush, they're getting deep into the offensive zone and they have to find a way to get back on defense quickly. It's one of those things that, it's hard to do, but that's part of Andrew Brunette's system is finding a way to make that happen. I still think there's definitely some chemistry that's having to be worked out between the defense and the offense because, they're intertwined in the system. And I'm sure there's, and I guess I shouldn't say I know everything about Andrew Brunette's system, but I imagine there's a lot of, finding out who does what assignment in certain scenarios. Sometimes maybe the forwards are going to be back checking, maybe sometimes defenders. I don't know. There's still probably a lot of stuff they're working out, but, as we're saying, though, that it's been really concerning. And again, they're getting beaten a lot of odd man rushes, and that shouldn't be happening. You can't let it happen all the time. It can't be a habit for too long.
So this is a chart from Jay Fresh on X. So go check him out. But he puts out all the best analytics out there. This is expected goals for versus against. So basically, the best teams are in the top right quadrant. You see the Predators mixed in with a lot of other teams, basically. Like they're kind of in the average there. They're very close, though. Here's what I want to really pinpoint here when you look at this graph. The Predators are on the border of being in the upper right quadrant. But what's holding them back a little bit is they're not finishing. And their defense actually hasn't been as bad as you would think when you think of it's just they're giving up their actual overall defense is not that bad. It's just they're having these lapses where they give up these odd man rushes. But if you throw it all together and you average it all out, the Predators are actually defending pretty well. They're out shooting the other team a lot. They're controlling zone time a lot, but they're just getting outworked a lot early in games, especially when it comes to the speed factor. They're getting beat up ice. They're getting caught up ice. I don't know if that's just like confusion, getting used to the new system. I don't know. But That's what I'm seeing the most with this team, and that's what's got them down there where they're at on Jay Fresh's graph, and not actually being up there more in that upper right quadrant. Where if they were more up there, I think they beat the Stars if they knocked down the odd man rushes. And I think they probably beat the Red Wings, who they lost 2-0 to. But the problem with that game was they couldn't score either. But, what ifs are always going to plague you in any hockey game. So I don't want to get lost in all those. But that kind of gives you a little bit of an insight into just how the Predators are performing in expected goals for and against 5-on-5 compared to other teams. And when you look at that, they're right there with a lot of other teams.
Yeah.
So they're not really that bad. You look at the teams that are really bad on this graph, look at the Canadians all the way over there by them lonesome selves over there on the left.
Gosh.
I mean, you see the Penguins are struggling big time way down there. Their offense is fine, but they're way down there. But this bottom left quadrant is not where you want to be. And you see the Sharks, who are they just made history in the wrong way. They're the first team. They are the first team to lose their first 8 games of a season for 2 consecutive seasons. I just saw that today. So,
well, at least they know that things are not good for them now, but will get better hopefully in the future.
Well, yeah, they got the savior, Yaroslav Askarov, man.
Yeah,
have you not heard?
Yeah.
But yeah, so what's some
on that rabbit hole again?
So what's some other things though, Max, that you think that's plaguing them?
I mean, I think I was going to say the power play, but I mean, again, we think things can get better. I think they're still moving the puck a little slow on the power play, but they did before yesterday's game. They did score a power play goal in each of the past 4 games. So
but they're getting a lot of power play opportunities.
Yes.
Too.
I mean, I mean, even still, for as much as like I mentioned that the past 2 games they're much more they were much more resilient. Still, though, it's still not completely out of their system. Like the momentum crushing goals against, and like the penalties after scoring goals to either take leads or tie the game up. Again, getting better, but it's still not completely out of their system yet. So I would say, well, it's one of those things at this point that's less of a concern, but it still is.
So to kind of jump off that, here's another graph. Ranking, if you will, from J Fresh Hockey. And this is special teams goals for percentage. If you're listening on the audio version, you got to follow us on YouTube or Facebook, and you can see all these wonderful graphics that we're sharing for our viewers here. But I'll still illustrate it for you here. Special teams goals for percentage. So this is basically rating how much of your goals are coming from the special teams. And the Predators, 75%. I don't know if you actually want to be that high or not. That tells me you need to
get better.
You need to get better at 5-on-5, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. And also, that tells me that the Predators are actually getting a lot of good chances on special teams. They're just not connecting. Again, that comes back to that finishing factor, which they're one of the worst teams in the league right now at finishing. They moved up a little bit over this winning streak, but they're still like bottom 5 last time I checked. Like they're one of the worst finishing teams in the league.
Yeah. Again, like I said a second ago, but I'll say it again. I do think they're still kind of moving the puck a little slow, and they're still working out chemistry. I did notice when I was at the game last night against Columbus, something like the passes weren't as crisp as you'd want to see. And again, you expect that beginning of the season. I was also at the Boston game Tuesday night, and there was a pass that didn't quite connect. And my dad, who watches games far less than I do, he leaned over to me and just said, like, yeah, that's just the kind of stuff that shows you're just not all quite there yet with. So again, we both agree it's going to get better, but they're still kind of working out the kinks, and again, just the crispiness, the smoothness of everything is just not. It's just not all quite there yet.
Here's the last one I want to give from Jay Fresh. This really puts into perspective. This actually gives you, for all you glass half full people, the people who think, you know what, we're going to be okay. We're going to work our way out of this. Well, this graph is for you because this is goal differential above expected. This is rating kind of like, okay, if you're in the red here, it means that you're way below where you maybe should be, based on your goal opportunities and again, it comes back down to finishing. But the Predators are 29th in this category. They're a negative 8.2. Now you look at the Oilers, who are the prohibitive Stanley Cup favorites going into the season, at least. Look at them all the way down there at negative 15.8.
With all that talent on their team, I mean, crazy.
So that might make you feel a little bit better if you're a Predators fan, that you see a team like that, the worst. These are all valid as of today, Sunday. You see the Flyers, who are way down in the standings, similar to the Predators, off to a bad start. We just brought up the Sharks. And lost their first 8 games in this season. They're down there behind the Predators. But to see the Oilers at 32, so again, sometimes really good teams are going to be at the bottom of these lists because they're creating opportunities, they're generating chances, but what ultimately matters is you got to score. I mean, I know it sounds so basic and it sounds stupid that I'm even having to say this, but that's really what the Predators are plagued by right now, is they're not scoring. They're not capitalizing on all the hard work they're generating. And so if you're a glass half full type of person, that might make you feel kind of good about yourself, especially this early in the season, that eventually that's going to work itself out.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's all I got to say.
No, I think so. And I think, like I said a second ago, that does come back to things such as the power play, figuring out more and more and more things over time. And again, like I said earlier too, take it for what it's worth, that besides yesterday, or I guess now out of 4 of the past 5 games, there have been a power play goal. So steps in the right direction, but still things to fix.
And it helps that they've won 3 in a row.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it does help. I mean, there's a lot of time, and we fully believe that this team is capable of a long winning streak, just like they're capable of a long losing streak. So we'll see if they can stretch this 3-game winning streak into something longer. But I think the most important thing is they got to show gradual progress for sure. Get it out of your system this early in the season is, I think, the most important thing.
Yep.
You don't want them to start regressing after the All-Star break. Going into February, March, if they start showing these kind of problems, that's when we really need to start ringing the alarm bells.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's roll along here. Let's talk about Zachary Leroux a little bit more. He deserves a lot of credit here for what he's done. We kind of touched on it already, as far as his just his tenacity and his tone setter ability. But Max, how long do you see him sticking in the lineup, and what does that make you think about the future of Tomasino and Parson?
It's hard to say.
It complicates things, man.
I mean, I don't know if I can say if I think that Leroux staying forever. I mean,
but how do you take him out?
But like,
what was it? What was the point in the experiment if you're just going to pull him out when he's playing well?
But like, he's playing well now, but do you honestly see him sticking in? I'm not saying like you're taking. I do. You think you don't? So you don't think he's going back to Milwaukee at all, from what you're seeing?
I mean, unless he just throws. I mean, I don't think if he has one bad game, I think it would be terrible optics to just say, "Oh, you had a bad game, you're out." Like you had a good 3-game run. We saw what you needed. Like, I mean, you literally called him up sooner than you needed to begin with. I was saying before the season started, don't rush these guys. Don't throw these guys in here too early. And if you're going to jump off that diving board and do it, you need to commit to it, is where I'm at with it. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. You're probably right, Max. He probably will go back to Milwaukee. But I think unless he goes through a really bad stretch where his confidence is lacking, which I don't see that happening with the way he plays, I don't see – I could see him being a healthy scratch here and there and being rotated, but, like, I don't see a point – I almost think he's making the jump now, and unless he just has a really bad stretch where his confidence is shook, he's getting bullied around the puck, He's basically a liability out there. You've already committed to it. You've already thrown him in, thrust him into a 0-5 team. You want to talk about pressure? I mean, they threw him into a pressure situation. I mean, they did. Everyone knew Zachary LaRue is getting called up because this team is playing like crap and they're 0-5. Let's see what he can do. And he's lived up to it for 3 games, a very short sample size. I get that. But let's say he has a bad game the next game. I say you stick with him. I'm not all about this whole knee-jerk reaction like, oh, okay, he had a bad game. Let's throw him back to Milwaukee now. I just think that's horrible for a player like him, for his confidence. I don't see a point in that. I think you need to stick with them. Now, that makes things very complicated for Tomasino and Parsonen, so that's where I'm getting at, really.
I don't know. I don't really disagree with any of what you're saying about LaRue. I just think that, again, right now, based on what we've seen right now, there's no reason to take him out of the lineup. Just based off, usual trends with these rookies and them going through rough stretches sometimes, and we know how NHL head coaches a lot of times, especially on win now teams like the Preds, it's tough for them to they have to do really well, stick around. So I'm just saying that it could happen sometime later in the year, but again, that time is not now. As far as the other guys go, I mean, I don't know. I've personally I've been one of those guys with Tomasino. He's got to really show me something as far as even consistency of staying in the lineup for me to really believe in him, to actually do big things going forward. I mean, and he's still being pulled out of the lineup. Parsonen obviously got back in. I wonder when those guys might end up going back to Milwaukee because if they're not going to be playing, I mean, what's the point of having them just hang out in Nashville?
Well, you can definitely. So here's my thing. I'm not saying that you can't healthy scratch LaRue because even if he's not playing every game, and I know you want him in Milwaukee, you don't want him just wasting away on the bench. Here's where I'm at with LaRue. He's getting practice reps. He's on the NHL level now. So even if you healthy scratch him a game or two, and if he has graduated, is what I like to say. And so my thing is he doesn't have to play every game. Even if he's healthy scratched a game or two here and there, it's not to say he's playing horrible if you healthy scratch him, but he's still getting those practice reps. He's on the NHL level. Yeah. He is way ahead of schedule, quite frankly. In his hockey career. I mean, I was very much saying that it's okay if he doesn't get in the NHL this year. He's next up, but let's let him cook in the AHL again if he can do it. But things happen. I didn't see the Predators starting 0-5-0 either. So there's that. So I think that there's ways for Tomasino or Parsonen to still get in the lineup, and you maybe healthy scratch LaRue here and there. But it's a very complicated thing for me. I get where you're coming from, Max. Like, if he's not going to play, send him back to Milwaukee. But I also don't like the idea of calling him just because he's waivers exempt doesn't mean you just continuously, because it messes with your psyche too. If you're just constantly going from the minors to the pro team, to the pro ranks. And I don't look at LaRue as an experimental prospect. I look at him as like sooner rather than later. It's a matter of when, not if, he is going to be a full-time NHL player. Maybe I'm completely off on all my confidence in him, but that's what I see in him. It's a matter of when, not if, he is going to be a full-time NHL player. And so if you send him back to the AHL at some point this season, which is probably going to happen at some point, eventually you got to stop this dance and you got to either commit to him or trade Tomasino, which I think is going to probably happen at some point. They're probably, I mean, they were already kind of pushed to re-sign him, and it's just this is what happens when you have all these fringe players who have talent and you don't know what to do with them. You got to fill out your 23-man roster. It's like this is what happens. And so LaRue, he's earned it, and I'm happy for him. I love the way he carries himself. I love his tenacity. I love his confidence. He's built to handle adversity. Not to say that Tomasino and Parsonen aren't either, but LaRue has a different factor about him. He just does.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think he is built to last in the NHL sooner rather than later. He might get sent back to the AHL, but I think he has already pretty much proven to coaches that he needs to be in this lineup regularly when they can make it happen. So
hopefully he stays.
we'll see what happens, man. He's definitely going to have a rough stretch. That's almost inevitable. He is a rookie, and he's not a Connor Bedard. He's not a top 5 pick. So yeah, he's going to probably have a rough patch, and he's probably going to have a stint at some point where the coaches call him out, or maybe he gets benched, or maybe he. But I just love, I think his confidence level and the way he carries himself and what he went through in the AHL. I mean, this guy there were a lot of people jumping ship on Zachary Leroux with his disciplinary problems. And is he kind of a head case? Can he actually handle playing on the NHL level? That's one of the things I love most about what I've seen from him from the 3 games is, if you might correct me if I'm wrong, but no penalty minutes, right?
I don't think certainly hasn't done anything egregious of lack of discipline.
I mean, I was waiting for it. I'll be totally honest. I was waiting for it in his first 3 games. I was waiting for him to put out a sloppy penalty or two, a tripping penalty, a bad cross check because he got beat on the puck, and like a frustration penalty. I was waiting for it. And I wasn't going to even be that hard on him if it happened. I'd be like, all right, that's normal. He's emotional. He's a rookie. He's not used to getting beat because he's used to playing in the AHL against lesser talent. I haven't seen it. The dude's played disciplined. So that was the biggest concern of him for a while, was he's got the skill set, but can he handle his emotions?
Yeah.
And at least through this early stint, he's kept his emotions in check, and he's actually used his emotions for the positive. So we'll see where it goes. But good stuff there. We got to get into, let's see what we want to get into next. Let's do our battle for the Central Power Rankings, our second edition of the season. We did our preseason rankings. I'm going to put mine on the screen real quick. And before I do that, get the screen ready here. Let me just tell you, I did overvalue. I think a lot of us did. We overvalued the Predators maybe just a tad bit. And we do these power rankings. They're fluid. This is like a on season going thing. So they are subject to change, and they will change. That's where we're at with it. And so and I did these power rankings tonight after the Predators are 3-5-0. So even with that, I had to massively drop the Predators. I don't know where Max is going to put them. But here's mine. I still got Dallas at the top.
Interesting.
Even though the Jets are 8-0-0, I still got Dallas at the top. I do. But Winnipeg, I got number 2. They're 8-0-0. I mean,
can I just tell you, I literally have that exact thing except number 1, number 2 flipped.
I mean, it's fair to put Winnipeg number 1. I don't
Everything else I have the exact same.
I don't have any hatred for Winnipeg. I don't. But I look at this as from the lens of if these teams played each other in a 7-game series. I look at it from that lens. And if Dallas and Winnipeg right now went toe-to-toe in a 7-game series, I'm still taking Dallas, even though the Jets are 8-0-0, which is an incredible way to open a season, by the way.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, not even a overtime loss. 8-0-0, perfect. Literally the definition of perfection.
Yeah.
I had them number 4 in my preseason rankings. I had Dallas number 1. I still got them number 1. 7-2-0, 14 points. Number 3, I got the Minnesota Wild. They're the team I've been the most off, as you can see in my rankings. I had the Minnesota Wild at number 7. And I bumped them up to number 3. I still think that they're going to come back down to reality. But hey, I got to give them credit. They're 5-1-2, 12 points. But I think they're going to come back down to reality a little bit. But as of now, I got them number 3. I got the Avalanche at number 4. They started 0-4-0, and now they've won 4 in a row. So similar to the Predators, they stumbled out of the gate. They're dealing with a lot of injuries right now. So I wasn't going to drop them too far because I think when they get fully healthy, their biggest problem is their goaltending with Georgiev.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty big problem for them. And yeah, he's been absolutely terrible this year. There was a stretch of the year, like, I can't remember if it was like their whole losing streak or what it was, but like they were giving up like 7 goals a game or something like that. It was terrible.
But I think when they get fully healthy, they're going to be a wagon again. So that's why I didn't drop them too far. I put them at number 4. I had them in my preseason rankings. I had them at number 3. I got the Blues at number 5. I had them at number 5 in my preseason rankings. Just a very middle of the road team. They could sneak into the playoffs. They're going to be around that wild card bubble most likely. And then I got the Predators all the way back at number 6. I dropped them from number 2. I went out on a limb and put them at number 2 in my preseason rankings, and I have dropped them like a rock all the way down to number 6. Even with their 3-game winning streak, I still had to put my bias aside and put them at number 6 because I can't justify putting them ahead of any of the teams that I already have ahead of them on my current list. That would be me being biased. So I got them at 3-5-0 with 6 points. They're at number 6. I kind of, quite frankly, feel wrong to even put them ahead of Utah Hockey Club.
No, Utah's dropped 3 straight. I think that's fair.
Yeah. So I put the Preds at number 6. I had them at number 2, so I dropped them. So don't call me biased at all. And I got Utah Hockey Club at number 7. I had them at number 6 in the preseason rankings. And then even though I think Chicago is showing a lot of improvements, I don't think they're going to be a pushover at all this season. I like their speed. They got some skill guys. They had the Preds on the ropes in that game, and then the talent level kind of overtook it, and the Blackhawks just couldn't hold it together for a 60-minute game. But even though I still got them number 8, I'm kind of impressed with the Blackhawks. I think they could definitely play spoiler this season, and they're capable of beating teams that take them too lightly. They got some good skill players. They picked up some veterans over the offseason, but still, I got them at number 8. So that's my end of October power rankings for the Central Division. All right, Max. So you said ours are almost the same.
Yeah, literally all I have to add to that, honestly, is talking about the number 1, number 2 spots. You know, I hear what you're saying about if the teams face off in a 7-game series. I probably would agree with that, you know, and especially when you look at that, when we looked at the expected goals thing earlier from JFresh, Winnipeg is at the top with like a ridiculous amount, like 13.5 or whatever it is, like goals above expected. But the power ranking is a lot of it is what you're doing right now and what we've seen. And at the end of the day, the Jets are an undefeated 8-0. Can't not be number 1 in my book.
Yeah, you're right. I'm a horrible person. I swear I don't have anything against the Jets, but it's going to take me a lot. It's going to take a lot for me to unseat the Dallas Stars. I just think they're the best team in the division.
No, I get that 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go wrong either way. I mean, we can agree for sure those are the top 2, but everything else we have the same. So, like,
so you put the Wild at number 3?
I did.
So where were we off again?
Literally number 1, number 2.
Oh, we just had Dallas and Winnipeg flip-flop.
That was literally the only thing we had disagreeing with each other.
And we don't share our rankings.
No, we did not talk about this at all, besides the fact that we said, have this prepared for the episode. That was literally all we did.
So there you have it. Put it in the comments or tweet us at Catfish Ice. Where would you put the Central Division rankings right now this early in the season? Johnny says Winnipeg is not going to finish the season in first place. I'm ready to say they'll probably make the playoffs, but they won't finish first. Yeah, right. I mean, it's so early in the season. Yeah, you can't. But at 8, hey, 8-0-0 is ridiculous. I mean,
pretty damn good. Give them
kudos to them. I mean, Connor Hellebuck is my fantasy goalie. He was one of my keepers, and I'm very happy about that choice I made. Because he's definitely top 3 goalie workhorse in the league. I mean, the Jets just figure out ways to just not. They don't get a lot of headlines, but they just do what they do. I mean, they're just like consistent. They don't. But the problem with the Jets is, can he do it in the playoffs? That's their problem.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff there. About to get into some other things. We got to do our clutch reformers of the week, which is it's our throwback segment that's been with the show since the early days of the podcast. So we're about to get into our clutch reformers of the week. Before we do that, I also want to tell you about our current offer with DraftKings. The quest for the Stanley Cup starts now. The puck's dropping on the 2024-25 season. Get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. Max, let's give you a little quick preview of Preds and Lightning coming up tomorrow night. Really excited to go there. It's going to be my annual thing. Since I've lived down here, I've gone to every Preds Lightning game down here in Tampa. I got to say, Lightning fans are very gracious to Predators fans. They don't talk a lot of smack. They're super welcoming. But again, I don't know. I think I'm going to get a little bit more animosity tomorrow, Max, because even though I didn't go all in and buy the Steven Stamkos jersey because I didn't have like $300 laying around to do that, I am going to be rocking my Preds jersey.
Oh, yeah, you should be.
And I feel like they're not going to be as receptive tomorrow because we stole their prodigal son, Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, no, I mean, they know what's going on. I mean, either way, it's going to be an emotional night for everyone involved, especially Lightning fans, Stamkos himself. But I mean, that's a hell of a game to go to. I mean, if I were you, I'd absolutely be going to that.
I wasn't missing that.
Paying a lot of money for it too.
No way. DraftKings has the current odds for Preds at Lightning on Monday night. Got the Lightning as a minus 135 favorite on the money line. So not a crazy heavy favorite. So a pretty even matchup according to DraftKings. We got some good Monday night games. Got the Maple Leafs at the undefeated Winnipeg Jets. That should be a good one. DraftKings has the Jets as slight favorites. Got the Oilers at the Blue Jackets with the Oilers as heavy favorites on the road. Got the Panthers at the Sabres with the Panthers as favorites on the road. And you also have the Sharks, the winless Sharks at the Utah Hockey Club at the Delta Center tomorrow night. And Utah Hockey Club, they are very heavy favorites. Blackhawks at the Avalanche also on Monday, and the a full slate of hockey on Monday. Flames at the Golden Knights with the Golden Knights as favorites at home, and the Hurricanes at the Canucks. Very even matchup there according to DraftKings. So good stuff there. Plenty of action that you can place your first bet on with our promo code THPN for DraftKings. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get 200 in bonus bets instantly. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you just bet $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available. For problem gambling, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.com/ice. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved. Clutch performers of the week, Max. Let's get into it. How about you give me yours first?
Yeah, I would say at first, UC Soros, I think, for the way he played against Boston and Chicago. We talked about that. I maybe even throw Scott Wedgwood in there as kind of a slash mark since he played Saturday night, kind of the goaltenders, I would say. I would say the goaltenders as far as number one, because I think they played a huge role in helping us win those games in the 3-game win streak. So I'll say that. Number two, Philip Forsberg. You know, his goals didn't come at necessarily clutch points in the game, but they were huge as far as generating momentum and getting us back into those games. You know, they were both really good goals. The first one, obviously, we talked about the stick handle move in Chicago. Second one, yesterday, he not quite as impressive, but he picked the corner really well on that play, and that was a good goal by him. And again, got us back in a game we really needed it. And number three, I would say Jonathan Marchessault for that play in overtime. I mean, just a literal clutch play and a tremendous one too, where he put Damon Severson on his back. So great play there. I would say if I'm having an honorable mention, though, I would say Gus Nyquist for the goals he had off the rush. The first one had against Boston, made it 3-0, essentially sealed the game there. And the game against Chicago, he had the game that the shorthanded game tying goals. So maybe not put him in my top three, but I would say honorable mention for him. But my official three clutch performers are goaltenders, Soros and Wedgwood, and then Philip Forsberg, and then Jonathan Marchessault.
We're right on board. I'm going number three. I'm going Philip Forsberg. He's kind of like, we've kind of come to expect it from him, but like we expect him to just like do what he does. Like we've kind of gotten a little spoiled by him. But I'm going to put him at number three because that was such a massive goal. It's literally the definition of clutch, and we're doing the clutch performers of the week. And for him to score that goal with the Predators down 2-0, the way he scored that goal with the danger of that game getting out of hand, with the entire road fans, opponent fans in Chicago, just like feeling good about themselves, and Chicago taking it to the Preds. For him to go out and score that goal, the way he scored that goal, it wasn't fluky. It wasn't like, he went out and did it and seized it. That's literally the definition of clutch. So I got to put him at number three. Number two, I'm definitely going to go Jonathan Marchessault again for the clutch factor to do what he did with his spin cycle goal. Again, he did it on his own, one-on-one. Didn't have to do any kind of flukes or lucky, like a lucky bounce, or it deflected off a defenseman's stick, or whatever. No, he just went out and took it and seized it. Got to put him at number two. But my number one has got to be Saros, because with all the crap he was taking in the first 5 games, some of it rightly so. I'm not saying he was without blame. But for him to play the way he did against Boston and to get that shutout, I mean, to do what he did to stop Pasternak in that game, to do what he did to stop Bedard, he made a really clutch save against Bedard. I know Bedard scored a goal in that game, but he also made a really clutch save against Bedard earlier in that game. I mean, you need your goalie to be clutch. And Saros has rebounded himself in the last 2 starts for himself. And gotten his numbers back up to way more respectable averages. And since you're so early in the season, it only takes a couple good games to get those numbers to average back out to normal territory. And so he is a notorious bad starter to the season, but we're still very early in the season to see him put up back-to-back strong games. Let's also not forget he had a really good game against the Red Wings, second game of the season, his season debut. He only gave up 2 goals against the Red Wings, and his team didn't show up and give him any goal support.
Right.
So let's not forget that either. He did have some bad games mixed in there as well. But I'm putting him number one on my clutch performers. I wanted to put Marchessault number one, but the goalie's the goalie, and he had to come together. He had to have that strong game against Boston. His team needed him so bad to stop the bleeding, get out of that 0-5 hole, and he did it with a shutout. So he's number one.
Absolutely.
All right, Smashville stat of the week. And then after that, we are going to get to Titans time. Sad Titans time
Huh.
with Max Greenberg. All right. Our Smashville stat of the week is the top 5 best finishes in the standings in Preds history. We're going to look at those teams, not top to bottom, but we're going to look at those teams' best point scorers, top point scorers from each of those teams, and some interesting nuggets from each of those teams. So, the best finish in Preds history. Let's go from 5 to the top. So we have a tie in the top 5. Your 2011, 2012 team and your 2014, 2015 team both finished with 104 points in the standings. Really not that high when you think about it. I mean, you see the standings every year and you're like, there's teams that are very, like, they're good, but 104 points is tied for 4th for the most points and best finish in the standings in team history. Your 2011-12 team, your leading point scorer for that team, only had 58 points, Max. 58 points. Martin Erat.
That's crazy.
You know why that team finished with 104 points? Well, you had this man named Pecorine who I never realized this, Max, and you're going to be floored by this. Pecorine in that 2011-12 season where the Predators finished with 104 points, their leading point scorer only had 58 points, Martin Erat. Pecorine had a .923 save percentage on 72 starts. He started 72 of 82 games.
Who was the backup? Was it Anders Lindback?
Anders Lindback.
Wow.
And guess what? He wasn't too shabby himself. .912 save percentage.
Crazy. 72 starts.
70. I never realized that. As much as I like to know about Preds history, I never realized he started 72 games that year. That's crazy.
Unreal.
I don't think Saros is going to start quite that many games this
Let's
year.
hope not.
We need Wedgwood to up it up a little bit too.
Yes.
All right. The other team, of course, was the 2014-15 team. This stat's going to blow your mind a little bit too. Not saying you don't know this necessarily yet, Max, but it's still mind-blowing. 2014-15 team also scored 104 points in the standings. Guess who that leading point scorer was that season?
Wasn't Forsberg, was it?
I don't know, was it?
That's my guess. Was it Forsberg?
You're right.
Wow. And that was his rookie year.
Here's what's mind-blowing about that. Here's what's mind-blowing. That was a decade ago. This guy was 20 years old, and he led the Predators in points that season. And he's going to probably lead the team in points again this season. Maybe Roman Josi has something to say about that, or Marchessault. But my point is, a decade apart, and Forsberg is actually getting even better for this team.
Wow, yeah.
He's been around that long. He led an NHL team in points at 20 years old, 63 points. That was also the first year that Peter Laviolette was the head coach. And Pecorine also was a workhorse that year with a .923 save percentage and 64 starts. So those teams are pretty crazy to think about. The number 3 best team in Preds history was 106 points. 2005, 2006, going way back. Paul Kariya led the team in points with 85 points. That team was top 10 in the league in both goals for and goals against. So they were both good in scoring and in defense. So there you have it there. The second best team in Preds history was just one season after that, the 06-07 team, 110 points in the standings. Again, it was Paul Kariya leading the team in points with 76. And they had 4 players on that team with 60-plus points. So that team was deep. That team, so you can see right now, like that team was deep with a lot of guys. And then, of course, the President's Trophy team in 2017-18 is the best finish in Preds history. 117 points. Forsberg was your leading point scorer with only 64 points. That's crazy. A President's Trophy team.
I do remember that.
Didn't even have a point score above 70 points. That's kind of amazing.
That is insane.
But that team had 8 players with 40+ points.
And some pretty good goaltending, mind you.
And I would say Pecorine was also pretty good in that season.
And Saros as a backup too was not too shabby.
Yep, good point, of course. But 8 players with 40+ points. You want to talk about being deep.
It's also maybe even more unfair. The pairings that you're on defense that's when it was like Ryan Ellis and Roman Josi and Matthias Ekholm and PK Subban. That was like the unfair years of the Preds defensive core.
And so I kind of want to tie it all together here with this Smashville stat of the week. I'm not saying the Predators are a President's Trophy team at all. What I'm saying is the winning formula for this Predators team, and I think Barry Trotz was thinking this when he built this team, they got to be deep.
Yes.
They can't be a top line heavy team like they've been in the past, where they got to rely on O'Reilly, Forsberg, Nyquist, and Josi to just like do all the heavy lifting on offense. And so you go out and get Stamkos, who were waiting to get fired up. We're starting to see Marchessault get it together. And then you see Brady Shea is figuring it out and starting to get more comfortable. And we're waiting for these younger guys to kind of like find their groove. But, Novak's got 3 goals this season. I think Evangelista's been good. I wouldn't call him great, when it comes to Evangelista. But overall, I think these guys are definitely going in the right direction as a collective unit. But that's the promised land right there. This can't be a top heavy team. It has to be a deep team like those teams we've seen in the past, like the President's Trophy team that had 8 players with 40+ points. So that's kind of what I wanted to tie together with the Smashville stat of the week. So take the Smashville stat of the week with you, take it to the office with you, quiz all of your fellow Preds friends, and see if they can name you the top 5 teams in Preds history. All right. With that said, it's time for Titans time with Max Greenberg. And before Max goes on his beautiful, beautiful monologue of what is going on with the Tennessee Titans right now, let me just say that I would compare the Tennessee Titans to garbage, but that would be a very unfair thing for me to say for garbage.
Yes.
Because I think garbage might be a little bit better than what the Titans are right now. That would be very unfair of me to compare them to garbage. Be unfair to garbage. So what's wrong with the Titans right now, Max? I mean, I know we didn't have high expectations. I know they weren't going to win the Super Bowl this year. I know they weren't going to even make the playoffs this year, most likely. But this team is so far past that. Yeah. It's embarrassing.
I think a better question that you asked is what's going right for this Titans team right now.
The defense was going right until today, wasn't it?
But here's the caveat to everything of the defense. Week 1, Caleb Williams in his first game ever. Week 2 against the Jets, who they're not very good. Week 3 against the Packers, Malik Willis. You get torched. Week 4.
Which I'm so happy for Malik Willis.
Yes. Week 4 against Miami. You're playing a quarterback that literally can't do anything. Week 5 against Indianapolis.
Ooh.
Again, not a very good.
I didn't realize how bad the quarterbacks they played.
And then, but even that, I guess they were. To be fair, Indy was starting Joe Flacco. But either way, now you're seeing the Titans against 2 like good teams getting blown out of the water. And today, I mean, this is probably the story of the Titans season has been terrible quarterback play and just mistakes that shoot yourself in the foot. And today, the biggest, more things than one went wrong. But of all the things that plagued the team most, the special teams, oh my God. It was over 230 yards of return yards the Lions had on special teams.
So I checked the score and it was like 42-14 or something like that. And I'm like, what is going on? And I look at the stats and I see that Jared Goff had like 85 passing yards. I'm like, what is going on? Is this like the stats not updated? Like, how did the Lions have 42 points and the quarterback has less than 100 yards?
Because of Colt Anderson's special teams unit and quarterbacking, like I say. And look, I have there's a lot of things wrong with the Titans, but I think I could probably get you to agree with this. I am not a person who's like, let's fire people in year one because things take time to figure out. That is except for Colt Anderson. I mean, it's just inexcusable what happened. I mean, it's been happening all year with him. I just don't even have words to say about it. I mean, again, I will say some of the Titans' personnel decisions, especially around roster cut down, I think played into this what you're seeing on special teams, but it should be nowhere near bad enough. I mean, literally, it's 230 yards of punt and kickoff return coverage. That's grounds to get your special teams coordinator fired at any point. And with that going on, but again, it's not just special teams. Again, like I say,
real quick, you see at the bottom of the screen, how many games will the Titans win this season? Do you think they beat the Patriots?
I do think so. I think we're going to beat the Patriots. I think we're going to get to 4 or 5 wins at the end of the year because I do.
Wait, are they going to stick with Mason Rudolph, or is that because Will Levis is hurt?
He's hurt. I think they're going back to Levis. They're seeing you don't have anything much more in Mason Rudolph, and also here's the thing. Like my thought was, I had predicted 2-5 at the end of October. We're 1-6. And there's certain
one game off.
Well, I was 1 game off, and certain things aren't going quite the way are going worse than we think. But I think all I really care, I don't care where you finish in the standings. I don't care draft order. I don't really care about any of this stuff. This season's pretty much a waste. I just want to see some signs of heartbeat in life.
Yeah.
As the rest of the season goes on. That's all I ask for. Whether it starts in December, continues through November, December, I just want to see some signs of progress as the year goes on. Because again, when you get a new regime, new coaches, everything, you expect some things to be like are going to be really out of whack. But I just want to see some progress made towards the end of the year, and I think that can happen. I overall, philosophically, I like what Brian Callahan and Rand Carthon are trying to do with this team. I really do. And obviously, they don't have a quarterback. That's you definitely can point to. And there's a lot of other mistakes. And again, not saying Brian Callahan's doing the best job, and at the end of the day, the team constantly making errors and also having the special teams coordinators on him because he hired the guy. But again, I just want to see some signs of progress. That's all I ask for.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's really hard to I think what has fans ticked off is a 52-14. It's seeing that score, it's seeing that embarrassment, it's not so much like what you're saying, Max, in terms of where they're at in the standings. I think the most realistic fans realized that this was going to be a pretty tough season in terms of like you're not going for a Super Bowl. But like, look, where I'm at with it, man, is you can't call me hindsight here because I was against it when it happened. Dude, like I just don't understand why we ever walked away with Mike Vrabel to begin with. I really don't get it. I know he was abrasive and he like some locker room rumblings and he wasn't always the nicest guy. I don't know. And I get he didn't get hired like when he was on the market, but like I just don't. I'll never understand what Amy Adams Strunk was thinking there to just like move on from him like that. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, Callahan might end up being a great head coach. I'm not jumping ship on this guy, but I don't understand why it ever got to that point to begin with.
I mean, we've had the discussion before in the past. We can have it again. I'm probably not going to fight that rabbit hole with Vrabel again, although I have my opinions on that still. But the biggest thing with Brian Callahan is you want to see him having answers at some point. You want to see him having answers so the team continually shooting themselves in the foot. And you want to see, and also one of my complaints so far, and that's probably the only, one of my two biggest complaints I said a second ago with the lack of answers, but also overall, second half offense has been nowhere near as good for this team. So again, just the overall mistakes and particularly the second half,
And I don't want to hold it against Callahan because I mean they're clearly already starting to do the fire sale. They traded away DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs. Could you have picked a different team at least? But like, and you get like a 5th round pick, I think is what it was, Max. It could be a 4th.
Could become a 4th. A 5th that will become a 4th if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl and DeAndre Hopkins.
But you're essentially just like cutting ties at that point.
You're just getting anything that you can before.
Yeah. So I mean, they've clearly already said like, all right. So I don't even want to hold the offense against him at that point. But I mean, But I mean, receivers are clearly been frustrated from what I've seen in post-game interviews.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just I don't know if it's the system. I'm not going to get into all that because we're not a full-time Titans podcast. But I like you said, Max, I want to see progress here and stuff, and that's all you can hope for,
We'll
really.
see.
I mean, it's not even from what I've read, it's not a very exciting draft class coming up either. So it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, if the Titans were to get the number 1 overall pick, I mean, could you have picked a better draft to get the number 1 overall pick? I mean, because I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's bad.
I mean, do they go quarterback if they end up getting the top 5?
I don't know. Pick? I mean, again, I mean,
we can talk about that later.
It's
another episode.
It's way too early.
But I mean, I like Will Levis as a guy. I like that he's a competitor, and I love that he carries his emotions on his sleeve, and I had a lot of faith in him, and he could still end up, like you said, Max. I don't know how long his injury timetable is, but when he does get back in, I hope he can build on it and build into next season. That's all we can really hope for.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying improvement necessarily any one player. I mean, I personally don't have a lot of faith in Levis at this point. I just want to see overall improvement. So,
yep.
Yeah.
All right. Hate to end on that negative note, but we like to cover the Titans as well. And good stuff there. Good breakdown from Max, even though it's not what we want to hear. But all right. We will get a fresh new episode to you much sooner than this past break. I promise you that. But until then, we are so happy to be back and bring you this new episode. Thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us. This has been Catfish on Ice, episode 248, presented by Game Time and DraftKings and part of the Hockey Podcast Network. Please hit subscribe if you've enjoyed what you've seen on YouTube and also on Facebook, and follow us at Catfish Ice on X. Until then, it's been Chad Mitten and Max Greenberg. We'll see you later. Enjoy your week.
See you guys.